Hey, what's up guys? It is your boy Roman, your favorite neighborhood Russian. How you guys doing today? Welcome to a brand new video, and in today's video guys, I am going to be exposing myself, because in today's video, you guys are about to find out my true political beliefs. Basically, for this video, I just decided to copy McCullough or any other YouTuber out there that's ever done a political compass test. And the reason is because a lot of people actually don't realize that when you're an online celebrity, a YouTuber whose job is to speak to the camera about his opinions, the things that you say can be twisted and misunderstood. So in the past several years online, I've been called a communist, a Nazi, an extreme right-winger, and an extreme leftist. So today I decided to take the political compass test and give you some insights how me being born and growing up in Russia, and also how being on the internet since I was a teenager has influenced my politics and what I believe in. And guys, I promise, I will try to not insult other political ideologies in this video, because usually in my videos,
Вы коммунисты, это из-за вас!
I do make a lot of fun of people who basically disagree with me. However, it's just being a YouTuber, you kind of feel like you're on a stand-up stage and you kind of have to ridicule people and basically, keep the hecklers away. But today, guys, I'll actually try to be human and down to earth and accept that other people might disagree with me. But yeah, before we get to the test, I have to say, I usually generally fall somewhere under the libertarian left, and I've pretty much been that for the last 6 years or so. And usually when people ask me to describe myself, I call myself a social democrat, a generally left-leaning person with some sympathies to socialism. However, I do not like authoritarian socialist states, such as the Soviet Union, for example, guys. I'm a little biased, because they kind of ruined my fucking country. But yes, alright guys, I'm already fucking ranting. Let's stop my schizo nonsense and let's get right into it. Okay, first question. If economic globalization is inevitable, it should primarily serve humanity rather than the interests of transnational corporations. Strongly agree. I don't care about transnational corporations, honestly. I just don't really care about their well-being. I'm sorry, guys. It just so happened that I grew up pretty poor, so I don't have much empathy for rich people. I just start realizing this the older I get. So I do have this certain class consciousness and unbelievable bitterness towards rich people that might never fade away. So, I don't care about corporations that much. I'd always support my country, whether it was right or wrong. I mean, guys, I'm being called a traitor of Russia for leaving Russia and, disagreeing with its special military operation and everything. So, here's the thing, I strongly disagree, because in my belief, patriotism is not standing for your country in any case. Rather than that, it's the desire for your country to be prospering, and also a willingness to criticize your country when something is not right. And clearly by my actions from the past few years, you can see that, this is something I would not agree with. Now overall, when it comes to mine or your political beliefs, a lot of what we believe is actually dictated by the news that we consume. And more often than not, the media can actually control what we think without us even noticing. And that is exactly why I like to use ground news. Ground news is essentially a news aggregator on ultra settings and the ultimate news comparison platform that allows you to not only see news from different sides, but also to keep your own bias in check. To show you how this works, here I am on the ground website on an article about the Russian authorities asking the Supreme Court of Russia to declare the LGBTQ movements as extremist. Yes, this is something that's actually happening in Russia right now. As we can see here, there's a total of 29 news sources that reported on this topic. And what's interesting is that the majority of the news come from either the censor or the left. And what I can actually do here is actually go and scroll through all the individual articles, and ground news actually gives you the details on each and every single news source regarding their ownership, political bias, and factuality. And another feature that I personally enjoy is the blind spots, which actually shows you news stories that have underrepresentation on either left or the right. I personally enjoy using ground news because in our current time, ground news is just a great way to not only stay informed, but also to see right away where your news are coming from and what agenda is behind them, so to say. Go over to the link down in the description to ground.news/NFKRZ, and by using my link you can subscribe to Ground News for as little as $1 per month, or get 40% off of the unlimited access to the Vanish subscription. So once again, that is ground.news/NFKRZ. Check out Ground News, and by doing this, you will not only be supporting me as a creator, but you'll also support an independent platform trying to make the news more transparent. Huge thanks to Ground News for sponsoring this video, and let's get back into it. No one chooses their country of birth, so it's foolish to be proud of it. I would say disagree, not strongly disagree. I'm honestly not a huge fan of nationalism, and I believe that, yes, you should be proud and appreciative of the ideals of your country in a sense, of its culture, kind of. However, I don't know, maybe it's a childish belief, but I just think all of these borders and countries, etc., is just so fucking arbitrary. And honestly, a lot of the extreme patriotism out there and extreme nationalism of being proud of who you are, I don't know, to me it just feels super tribalistic and like prehistoric in a way. I mean, I understand that people are super nationalistic all over the world. However, I don't give a shit. That's not a world that I want to live in, and I don't care about borders. I really don't care what nationalities get to live and travel to my country, because I believe we're all human. And the fact that most people in the world still have this binary thinking of like, my country's good and this other country is bad, and that's why, you know, we have to fight till the death. I don't care. All humans are honestly equally garbage to me, so Our race has many superior qualities compared with other races. Strongly disagree with that, guys. White people are actually inferior in pretty much everything. I'm just kidding. Okay, calm the fuck down. Take a joke. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Strongly disagree. In my opinion, this type of thinking just basically leads to people being completely inconsistent in their views and what they believe in, and once again, it implies sticking to a team, which I really don't want to do. Military action that defies international law is sometimes justified. I strongly disagree with that. No matter if it's Russia or Israel or whoever, defying international law is not a great look. So, there's now a worrying fusion of information and entertainment. Strongly agree there. We live in an age of complete misinformation that's usually spread through entertainment platforms such as TikTok, and we live in a world where nothing is true anymore and people just live in bubbles and only listen to people that we agree with. Basically, Metal Gear Solid 2 caught a call from the end. Hideo Kojima predicted the future, guys. Next one. People are ultimately divided more by class by nationality. Strongly agree. That's basically a Marxist talking point. Controlling inflation is more important than controlling unemployment. I would say disagree, probably. As far as I say, controlling unemployment is more of a socialist policy, when controlling inflation would be more like interested in protecting the capital more than the people's well-being, so to say. Honestly, guys, I don't fucking know, so I'll just will disagree. Because corporations cannot be trusted to voluntarily protect the environment, they require regulations. Strongly agree, absolutely. I mean, look what the fuck's happening in the world right now. There's clearly not enough regulation. Like, I'm sorry, but the planet is going to shit, and in 50 years, your grandchildren are probably gonna be fighting on the street for a drop of fresh water or whatever, you know? The world is going to fucking shit. I mean, not your children, you're like from the West, you know, the golden billion theory or whatever, you guys are fine, but, you know, kids in Africa or probably Russia maybe, or like, I don't know, somewhere in the Middle East, definitely. People are gonna be killing each other on the street for fresh water. I mean, our planet is dying, the animals are leaving, and yes, corporations cannot be trusted with anything, I would say, honestly, and I believe personally that, you know, anarcho-capitalism and libertarianism is a sort of a utopia in a sense where if you don't want the government to regulate your life, right? Why would you want some corporate dystopia where corporations control every single facet of your life, and every single facet of your life is there to basically monetize it? I don't want to live in a world like that. From each according to his ability, to which according to his need is a fundamentally good idea. That's also Marxist. I would say just agree. Again, guys, I'm not gonna be a person that's well versed in Marx or whatever. I'll just vote agree. The freer the market, the freer the people. I'd say agree to some sense, because I don't support like Soviet-style communism essentially, where goods are produced at a rather small amount, where basically, you know, you have to stand in a line for years to, you know, get a TV or something. And you can make the point that, yes, in the free market society, you can just not afford that TV instead. Maybe, but in general, yes. I do believe in a free market to some sense, but it must be regulated. Because monopolies and mega corporations, you know, from what I've been seeing my entire life, none of these huge corporations have ever, you know, contributed to humanity in any way. So, in any positive way, at least, you know. So, I agree, but once again, the market shouldn't be too free. It's a sad reflection in our society that something as bad as drinking water is now a bottled, branded consumer product. I would say strongly agree, yes. Land shouldn't be a commodity to be bought and sold. Honestly, I would probably say disagree, because I do have belief in, you know, personal possessions and stuff. It'd be nice to own an apartment or whatever. However, if we talk about the current context, where the housing market is in an insane bubble at this point, let's face it, guys, most of us 20-somethings are probably not gonna be able to afford an apartment in a first world country like ever. all I see Americans and Europeans talking about online is just how they will never have enough money to buy themselves a house and an apartment. And rent is also absolutely insane these days, so homelessness is a huge problem as a result of that. And it would be nice to imagine a sort of a more socialist society when people would be given housing. However, that basically seems sort of unachievable at this point with the way the world is going, you know? So if you're not gonna give me a free apartment, then at least give me the right to buy an apartment. However, when in America at this point, like, you know, it's a shitty shack in the woods costs $10 billion or something. I don't know, guys. The world around us is crumbling, so it's kind of hard to have strong beliefs about this stuff. It is regrettable that many personal fortunes are made by people who simply manipulate money and contribute nothing to their society. Strongly agree. Once again, guys, like I said, you know, growing up poor, in a rather poor part of the world, first and foremost, right? Like I said, I don't have much empathy for rich people. I think they're doing fine. I mean, manipulating money, stocks, it's all a game. They learn how to play the game. Cool for them, I guess, but once again, just in my worldview, I'm not gonna give you more props in life if you've made millions of stocks than if you like a doctor or a teacher that works every day and actually contributes to society. And I know there's gonna be people talking about trickle-down economics in the comments of this video saying, you don't understand, they actually are contributing to society, they're increasing the amount of money, therefore, more people that are poor are also gonna get that money. That's not how it works. The rich just get richer and the poor just get poorer. This is what's been happening forever now in pretty much every single capitalist country, so no, guys, still, no matter how much I try to convince myself, I still don't have that much respect or empathy for rich people and, you know, Nepo babies. Protectionism is sometimes necessary in trades. I would say maybe yes, I don't fucking know. The only social responsibility of a company should be to deliver a profit to its shareholders. Well, that's what it is currently, the status quo, I would say, for most companies. So, I'd say disagree. They should be providing profit, but also, like, you know, try to, like, not keep people in, like, sweatshops or whatever, you know. If 12-year-old Chinese children would not be sitting in factories that have suicide nets around them, that would be cool, but, the rich are too highly taxed. Strongly disagree. The rich are not taxed even slightly enough. I find this question hard to deal for myself because actually, I had a business in Russia when I lived there from my YouTube channel and I paid 6% in tax. Just 6%, flat rates, plus also donations to like social security and medical insurance or whatever. And here in Georgia right now where I live, I'm paying literally 1% tax. Because Georgia has 1% tax for small businesses until like a certain limit. Yes, it is really cool to pay 1% tax. However, like I said in previous videos, I am currently working on a visa to somewhere in Europe. I don't want to spoil it, guys. But essentially, I will have to pay way higher taxes there, probably 20-30%, and I'm like kind of dreading it. Because guys, yes, like every single person in the world, I'm a hypocrite. When it comes to like, you know, Jeff Bezos, I'm like, yes, eat the rich, tax the rich, whatever. I want billionaires to give away their last penny, whatever, you know, typical lefty nonsense. But also, when it comes to me and my personal responsibilities of paying taxes, maybe I can pay like a smaller tax, please. I'm from Russia, you know, I had to go through shit. But yes, being completely serious, I do think that the rich should be taxed higher because there's only so much money you can spend, and honestly, the rich could use being brought down to a level just a little bit. But yes, in general, I'm not anti-taxes like a lot of libertarians. I personally think it would be nice if every country was a welfare state to some degree, and taxes are very, very important. And usually it seems like higher taxes just equals to better opportunities for the common folk, so yes, here I definitely am not with the don't tread on me crowds. Although I completely understand your position, guys, I would also love to not pay taxes at all. Those with the ability to pay should have access to higher standards of medical care. Strongly disagree. That is basically like segregation. And also the reality of modern America, by the way. Totally a very cool thing. Next statement is, governments should penalize businesses that mislead the public. Kind of depends on what misleading is, I guess. Because we have to be honest, guys, most advertisements are pretty much misleading. That's kind of the point of most businesses, is that they create a problem and then they sell you the solution to that problem. Every product is kind of misleading, but also we could be talking about like genuine fraud here. Honestly, I don't know. Once again, I do think that government should have some control over this. Here I'd say more disagree than agree, I guess. Because I don't like the implication. A genuine free market requires restrictions on the ability of predator multinationals to create monopolies. Probably strongly agree. I mean, this is kind of what I was pretty much saying. Free market is a good idea, but also monopolies should be taken care of. Although it's not happening once again, and it's the same case even with social media. Basically, guys, in 50 years, there's gonna be like 3 main companies that dictate your entire life. And you will be happy with it. Alright, next page. Abortion, when a woman's life is not threatened, should always be illegal. Strongly disagree with this. In my opinion, a woman should be able to do whatever she wants with her body. I'm gonna say something probably outrageous, but there's a huge debate in pro-life versus pro-choice camp, you know, whether life begins at conception and whatnot, and people who believe that it does say that abortion is murder of baby. I'm just gonna say it. Fuck them kids. Honestly, if a woman does not want to have a kid, if she's not in a position to do it, if she did not want that child, or if just that, you know, the circumstances in her life don't allow her to raise a child, I think a woman should have complete control of what's inside her body. I've always thought that abortion is just like, it makes sense. Not everybody wants to have a kid. Not all pregnancies are wanted pregnancies. So like, why torture yourself and subject yourself to raising some child that you never wanted? And I've already, by the way, talked about this previously on my channel. Back in the day, around like 2015, 2016, I actually used to be way more right-wing in my beliefs. I was sort of going down the alt-right pipeline, the MAGA, anti-SJW, Ben Shapiro, epically owned students pipeline. You know what I'm talking about, right? You know what YouTube was like in 2016. And actually, one thing that made me sort of think about the people that I'm listening to was the right-wing's very strong anti-abortion stance. And I was just listening to, you know, my whatever popular right-wing speaker at the time talk about how abortion is like immoral and all that and should be illegal. And I was just like, this is interesting. I don't really agree with that. And it just basically snowballed from there. I just slowly started to realize that the majority of my real values that I've pretty much held for most of my life don't really coincide with like the Christian right wing in America, where a lot of the speakers that I would listen to came from. So yes, strongly disagree. All authority should be questioned. Strongly agree. I come from a authoritarian country, so I shouldn't, you know, I wouldn't say otherwise. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Strongly disagree with that one. Taxpayers should not be expected to prop up any theaters or museums that cannot survive on a commercial basis. I'd say probably disagree, because I do believe that it's important to have things that exist not only for the reason that they're popular, because that way we'll basically reach the TikTokification of the entire fucking world. Because if it's gonna be like an ultimate free market, and you know, nobody's gonna be going to the boring ass history museums or whatever. Everybody's gonna be going to the, you know, Kaisenat Gyat Skibidi Rizzler museum. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, guys. Anyway, everybody's gonna be going to the Skibidi Toilet Museum, and, you know, the Smithsonian is gonna have to close because not enough people have visited and are actually interested in, like, serious things. I don't want that to be a reality, so I do think that the government should finance these things. And yes, funds for this will come out of taxpayer money, and fine. I'm okay with that. Schools should not make classroom attendance compulsory. Honestly, I would say disagree. Like, I mean, just go to fucking school. It's not that hard. I understand that maybe there's some sort of underlying question of education reform in this question or whatever, and how we should change how children approach education and whatnot, but I don't know. I think that's kind of a utopia. Just, kids are fucking idiots. They're not going to learn algebra if you're not gonna force them and stick their fucking heads in the book. Because it's not fun. It's not, you know, watching Gyat Rizzler Skibidi Toilet videos, so, if nobody will have to go to school, nobody will. So like, I strongly disagree there. All people have their rights, but it is better for all of us that different sorts of people should keep to their own kind. Strongly disagree with that one, guys. Not even much to discuss, I think. Again, this is very much, you know, tribalistic, nationalistic. Good parents sometimes have to spank their children. I'll actually say agree. This is just my, you know, Eastern European, you know, mentality or whatever. My parents, they bit the shit out of me here and there, you know, not much though. I wouldn't really say I'm scarred from it. I believe it's more so that there has to be a threat of it. You know what I mean? You shouldn't give your children physical damage. But like, you gotta have some sort of authoritarianism in your family, because otherwise kids will not behave and you'll have a monster. I mean, I was a monster when I was a child, and I understand why my parents would get mad. And I understand that in the West these days, you know, spanking a child is looked at as like child abuse and whatnot. I mean, I'm sorry guys. I'm just saying, a ton of us in Russia, we got shit kicked out of us when we were kids, and you know, we're fine. I mean, I guess not. Our country is like ridiculous right now. Maybe I'm actually not making a good point here. Alright, I'll go disagree. I'll just say it doesn't mean you're a good parent, essentially. And if you don't spank your kid, you're like a bad parent. I don't think that's the case at all. Just be attentive to what your kid wants, but also like, don't give him everything he wants. Because that way your kid will just grow up to be a complete ungrateful brat. Kinda like myself. It's natural for children to keep some secrets from their parents. I would say yes. Maybe strongly agree even. Again, I really don't know what the implication is behind this question, but yeah, kids do that, so I guess I'll say agree. Possessing marijuana for personal use should not be a criminal offense. No comment, guys. Strongly Strongly agree. But yes, being serious though, in Russia, for example, drug laws are pretty ridiculous. It's actually not exactly fully prohibited to be carrying and even doing drugs such as marijuana, but actually what usually happens in Russia is that if the police arrest you with any small quantity of drugs, usually what the cops in Russia do is that they basically want to have a lot of cases that they've solved. So what they do is that they basically say that you're actually a drug dealer and you get like 7 years in prison for having like the tiniest amount of weed. And literally hundreds of thousands of young men in Russia have had their lives ruined for this just because they wanted to smoke a little bit of za. I don't know, I don't really understand how smoking a little za should, end up in you being in prison for 7 years. I think that's like a little bit too crazy of a punishment, but to each his own. The prime function of schooling should be to equip the future generation to find jobs. It's education, I guess, so I would say disagree. Find jobs, yes, but not everybody has to have a job. People can contribute in other ways, I guess. People with serious inheritable disabilities should not be allowed to reproduce. Strongly disagree, I'm not a big fan of eugenics, personally. The most important thing for children to learn is to accept discipline. I was kind of talking about this just now with like the spanking children part. Here's the thing, I do believe that a child should learn to accept discipline because if you don't know discipline, you will not be able to function in society properly. Because at the end of the day, most of us, even if you live in a free country, you exist in an authoritarian system, and that system is being employed. You're told what to do, when to do, and how to do it. So like you have to know discipline to be out there in the real world, but also yes, at the same time I'm also thinking like, but a child should be told that he could express himself and be a creative person, and maybe if children wouldn't be, broken down by discipline this much or whatever, maybe the children would grow up to, be great creatives or something, but once again, not everybody should be a creative. So yeah, I really don't know what to say here, but I would say more so I agree than disagree. There are no savage and civilized peoples. There are only different cultures. Strongly agree with this. Again, I do not subscribe to this belief that people have like some sort of innate mentality. I think a person is fully shaped by their environments. And this is, precisely why I do not really like when people say that certain people, for example, Russians are not civilized and they're actually like orcs or whatever. But the truth is that they just grew up in a different society with different access to information, with different level of free speech, with different level of discourse in general. And it leads people to behave a certain way. And in general, I just don't subscribe to any sort of phobias like Islamophobia. A ton of people out there, especially these days, like to claim that, Muslim people are sort of like inherently more violent and they actually want to kill everybody who's like not Muslims or whatever, and that, they're savages and uncivilized or whatever. I mean, racists say this stuff about all sorts of people all the time, and it pisses me off because, again, it is not true. We're all the same, and then, we just get stuff in our brain that we start believing, and that's how our views are formed. So no, I don't really subscribe to the concept of savage and civilized peoples. In my opinion, it's largely a very racist Western view of the world. And this was basically the logic of Western Europeans when they were colonizing and raping Africa and other countries of the world. They thought that they're essentially bringing wisdom and knowledge to people that are beneath them. And they use that viewpoint to basically justify any of the atrocities that they would commit. I'm personally not a great fan of this, so I disagree. Those who are able to work and refuse the opportunity should not expect society's support. I would say more so disagree. In general, this statement does feel like just pull yourself up by the bootstraps or whatever, that kind of nonsense, so I don't like it. When you are troubled, it's better not to think about it, but to keep busy with more cheerful things. I've clearly not taken the political compass test in a while. How the fuck is this related to politics? That's pretty interesting. Honestly, I would rather say strongly disagree, because when I'm troubled, I prefer to die inside and think about it and be very, very depressed instead of doing cheerful things. This just goes off of my personal feelings right here, of how I take on life, First generation immigrants can never be fully integrated within their new country. I'll probably say maybe yes, they're not fully integrated because they keep kind of to their own community, etc. A lot of first generation immigrants tend to not really learn the language even sometimes, right? However, I do think it depends on the immigrants. For example, realistically, if you would bring somebody like me into America, I think it would be pretty easy to me to integrate. I mean, I know the language well, I know the culture pretty well. I know what's going on in the public consciousness. So I think it would be easier for me to integrate into America as an immigrant, as opposed to, I don't know, some guy named Vasya from some village in Siberia who doesn't even speak a single word of English. I would say disagree. What's good for the most successful corporations is always ultimately good for all of us. Definitely not. No broadcasting institution, however independent its content, should receive public funding. Strongly disagree with that. I think, honestly, media should be able to get funding from whoever the fuck they want. Our civil liberties are being excessively curbed in the name of counterterrorism. Strongly agree. A significant advantage of a one-party state is that it avoids all the arguments that delay progress in a democratic political system. Strongly disagree. You know, one-party states don't really go well. Russia, I like to believe that it's a one-party state. It's not officially, but only one party matters. Although the electronic age makes official surveillance easier, only wrongdoers need to be worried. I'd say strongly disagree. In general, a great video on this was done actually by PhilosophyTube a few years ago. You should check it out. Great video about the topic of surveillance and about the arguments of, well, if you're not doing anything wrong, then you shouldn't be worried. You have nothing to hide, right? I don't subscribe to that. I do believe we need privacy, and as a person who comes from a country where all of your social media, all of your messages, etc. can be accessed by the government at any point, it never made me feel very safe. It honestly made me feel the opposite of safe. So that's just my take on this. The death penalty should be an option for the most serious crimes. I disagree. I personally am not pro-capital punishment. I just personally think that courts and no judicial system is perfect because it's just a bunch of fucking dumbass humans making the decision at the end of the day. And it really sucks when the death penalty is given to a guy that didn't deserve it and didn't do anything. So, I don't know, I don't really get any moral enjoyment from seeing, you know, terrible people get killed. In a civilized society, one must always have people above to be obeyed and people below to be commanded. I would say disagree. Fuck the global order, you know, anarchy. Again, this is just a very deep philosophical question and I don't really feel like I've arrived to my own conclusion regarding it yet. Right now, I'll say not strongly, but just disagree a little bit. I would put myself in the middle if I could, honestly. That's actually true for a bunch of questions in this test, but yeah. Abstract art that doesn't represent anything shouldn't be considered art at all. Strongly disagree. That's some boomer fucking, you know, Nazi, degenerate art talking point bullshit. And like, honestly, most right-wing speakers that I used to actually watch back in the day, you know, like Paul Joseph Watson or whatever, they despise modern arts. And actually, guys, I'm not really like a huge fan of modern art either, in general. I do think that a lot of it is basically pretentious fucking nonsense for rich people that is basically just there to avoid taxes. However, I also don't really want to like say that this art is good and this art is degenerate art that is not real art. First of all, art is subjective and really nobody can objectively say whether something is art or not. And overall, this whole statement that like modern art is not real art and we should take it down because in the past when people cared more about aesthetics, they would draw beautiful landscapes and naturemorts. Come on, like, okay, boomer. Yes, everything used to be so much better back when, you know, there was segregation in the United States or whatever. We all know you want to go back to a past. Like, just die then. Like, if you can't take modern art, honestly, just deal with it. It's a bunch of bullshit that some people like. Why do you care if there's arts out there that you don't like, and why are you so mad that other people like it? Just let them fucking like it. Let people enjoy things, you know what I mean? In criminal justice, punishment should be more important than rehabilitation. I would say more so disagree. Maybe rehabilitation is more important than punishments, but also it is a waste of time to try to rehabilitate some criminals. I do agree with that. The business person and the manufacturer are more important than the writer and the artist. Disagree. I do think art is super important. It shapes our view of the world, but business, manufacturing, that's important. I mean, I don't like the idea that whatever these people are doing is more real than being an artist or a writer, but maybe, I don't know, I'd say slightly disagree. Mothers may have careers, but their first duty is to be homemakers. Honestly, once again, to some degree, I agree with this. Once again, I've already said this before, but despite the fact that I have some very left-leaning beliefs, progressive, you could say maybe, right? I still do have a sort of a, you know, Russian traditional view on the world. And in a sense, I want my family to be a pretty, you know, basic patriarchal unit in a sense where, you know, husband is kind of the breadwinner and mother is, you know, taking care of the kids. I mean, I also want to take care of the kids and I want to help. It's not like I'm dividing these roles completely. I think parents should chime in together, right? But I do prefer when a wife or a girlfriend, you know, does things around the house and helps me out and is basically being a good Russian trad wife. It's pretty much the relationship I had with most women in my life. So like, this is like second nature to me. I'm sorry guys, I'm a typical Eastern husband. So yeah, I do agree. Almost all politicians promise economic growth, but we should heed the warnings of climate science that growth is detrimental to our efforts to curb global warming. Strongly agree. Literally nobody is listening to climate scientists and people like, you know, Greta Thunberg are taking the piss out of, which just shows you that majority of people in the world don't give a fuck about what happens to this planet, which is fair. I also don't, but also because I think the world is fucking awful and just full of terrible people. But I do think we could maybe try to actually curb our greed and try to, just change these things a little bit and think about our environment just a tiny bit. Once again, so that our kids are not fighting over fresh water in 15 years on the street, but it's probably too late. So who gives a fuck? Making peace with the establishments is an important aspect of maturity. No, fuck you, I'm not going to mature, ever in my entire life. I think I'll always be a rebel inside of my heart to some degree. So yes, fuck the establishments. Astrology accurately explains many things. I think astrology is kind of fake, so you cannot be moral without being religious. Strongly disagree on that one. I do think that religion can be a great moral compass, and I do think that a lot of, general commandments and things written in religious texts are mostly positive, but no, you can absolutely be moral without being religious. It's not even worth discussing, really. Charity is better than social security as a means of helping the genuinely disadvantaged. Strongly disagree with that. We need social security because we need constant, reliable help for the disenfranchised, not just when some rich fucker donates on a whim to make himself look good, And whatever's happening in the world right now just tends to show us that rich people are not exactly very smart usually. So honestly, I do not want to rely on rich people to help out the people that are genuinely disadvantaged. We have the government and taxes for a reason. Some people are naturally unlucky. I guess I agree, I don't know. And the last question, it is important that my child's school instills religious values. Strongly disagree. I would like my child's school to teach him about different religions, but not to instill any values within my child. And neither will I, by the way, because I don't have any religious values, really. Oh, it's not the last, fuck. Oh yeah, because the last one is related to sex. Sex outside marriage is usually immoral. Strongly disagree. I'm not Kanye West, I wouldn't agree with that. A same-sex couple in a stable loving relationship should not be excluded from the possibility of child adoption. Strongly agree. Pornography depicting consent in adults should be legal for the adult population. Well, it is, and it probably should be. I agree. I don't necessarily hold the opinion that porn is degenerating and destroying the world and we need to ban it to keep the nation pure. Cool guys, tell me what we should ban next. Because I just have a feeling that you guys are not going to stop at porn if you get power. You're gonna ban some of those degenerate books and degenerate arts that we've been talking about. What goes on in a private bedroom between consenting adults is no business of the state. Strongly agree with that one. No one can feel naturally homosexual. Strongly disagree. What about me? I'm not gay, but I just had to make that joke. These days, openness about sex has gone too far. Strongly disagree, some boomer bullshit. And now guys, finally, let's see the results. Oh my god, bruh. Wow, I'm like the most lefty soy individual you ever seen in your life. Yes, this is where I am on the left libertarian. That is crazy. But yeah guys, I couldn't really say that I'm hugely surprised because I've taken the exact same test before a few years ago and it was pretty much the same thing, except that I do think that I was sort of more centrist. I was somewhere right like around here. And now guys, it seems like I've only gotten even more left wing, so it is over, guys. In 2 years, you're gonna be seeing why Stalin was right on this channel. As a genuine, non-ironic upload, and you guys will love it. I'm sorry. The leftist woke agenda has ingrained its fingers. Its dirty fingers too deep inside my brain. It is too late. It's only downhill from here, guys. Let me know what you think. What do you think of my political beliefs? Am I a completely insane, deranged person? You don't have to answer that. I know that's a yes. But in general, what do you think? Am I completely cringe? Do I deserve the right to live? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And once again, guys, if you did enjoy this video, then please make sure to slap the like button. If you'd like to support this channel additionally, then you can go over to the link down in the description and become a YouTube member. It's basically like YouTube's own version of Patreon. It's like a monthly donation is the best way to support me. Or also you can do a one-time donation by doing a super thanks underneath this video. Thank you so much for watching today's video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.